Hi, I'm Kevin Lee with the eMarketing Association. Most folks know me as the co-founder of Did It, what used to be a search marketing firm only, but we've made 11 acquisitions to become a full service agency. I also run a nonprofit called Giving Forward in the cause marketing space. I'm lucky to have Dan Dillon with me from Reveal Mobile, which is all about using location data to target better. So a lot of people won't know what business you're in. So why don't you give me the elevator pitch to start off?
Yeah, sure thing, Kevin. Great to be with you. Thank you. Reveal Mobile is a SaaS product. It's a piece of software anyone can log into and use to do really three things. You can run location-based analytics. So you can see for a specific location, a retailer, a car dealership, you name it, what kind of foot traffic that location has gotten over a period of time, really any period of time. You can see also where those visitors have also gone, after your store or after your dealership, whatever the case might be. You can see how many times they came back, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting to see basically location-based analytics. The second thing you can do is you can build audiences inside of this product. And that is basically, give me everybody who was at Pizza Hut last week, or tell me or show me everybody who was shopping at Target between January 15th and January 18th, 2020. I'll make it up, right? You can then pull those audiences out of our product and advertise to them on social media, programmatic display, OTT, whatever the case might be. Any platform that effectively accepts mobile ad IDs, third-party data. And then the third thing you can do is run attribution reports. So if you spend ad budget to get people to go visit, I don't know, Taco Bell, you can actually see how many people showed up at Taco Bell based on your ad spend. They were pixeled, they saw an ad, and then within the campaign period, they showed up at Taco Bell restaurant 649 or whatever the case might be, right? Or any Taco Bell nationally. So it's really a unique sort of offering for agencies, for retailers, for brands, for out of home, even media companies, entertainment streaming companies use this type of technology to do all those things I just mentioned. The product is called Visit Local. So it gives you very granular insight into attribution, audiences, and analytics.
So are you guys affected by the IDFA changes where then you'll just sort of on a go forward basis have more just Android as your sample of customers?
That's right. Although I would qualify the answer and say we still have plenty of iOS
for now
location data, right? And jury's out. It's very early, right? It's May of 2021. So it's early in terms of how big the impact is going to be to people opting in. Early signals are that a good portion of people who have 14.5 installed on their iPhone or their Apple mobile device. A good portion are opting in because they know it's convenient. They know it offers them, easy moving around, right, in their life. There are some reports that show very low opt-in rates, and of course, I think that sample was done a couple days after 14.5 hit the street. So it's really inconclusive in terms of how it's going to impact the overall picture. Yeah. We do get signals, though, as you're saying, we get signals from Android and we get signals from Apple. And in fact, Android in the US, Android makes up a larger portion of our total data set. So it's interesting to see how it'll be affected.
Right. Well, now that the pandemic, hopefully, barring any, odd mutations is on the wane and people are starting to sort of get out and go shopping again. How does your platform help marketers sort of drive store visits and get people out there or promote to them if they're out there?
Right. Well, as you can imagine, it's sort of like morning in America, right? Like everyone wants to, we know this, right? Everyone wants to go travel. Everyone wants to go out to the restaurants. Everyone wants to go out to see movies. I saw some data recently, actually, that listed all the things people are most eager to do compared to all the things people are actually doing. So many people are going grocery shopping and going to restaurants and hearing some things here and there, but no one's going to museums. No one's going to the movies. No one's going to I'm trying to think of other categories, concerts, but the summer, of course, is that it's the whole country warms up. Everybody goes out traditionally. And I think this year will be an incredible year for retail, right? All the forecasts from the NRF are super high, and people are going to go spend that discretionary income. So a tool like Visit Local is really perfectly positioned to enable an advertiser to capitalize on that demand, right? So it does all the things that you would hope an advertiser would do on your behalf if you're an agency, or if you're an agency or an advertiser working with an agency. It does all the things that you'd hope the agency would do on your behalf. And then if you're a retailer, it gives you insight into how to get your loyal customer back in the store who stopped coming because we all stopped coming. It also lets you win market share. So if you're in the business of, I don't know, smoothies, and you want to steal share from some other smoothie franchise, it lets you do that, right? So you can, grow your piece of the pie that way. So it's a really compelling technology for this moment.
Right. Great. Thank you. One of the reasons that did it, which started pure digital, right, in a SaaS business, as we transformed into more of a full service agency, one of the reasons we acquired 3 direct mail companies was because direct mail location, as far as the household, tells you a tremendous amount about the individual, even if they're anonymous, right? Because what zip code they live on, especially at the +4 level, tells you a lot about wealth and income and predicted demographics and psychographics. So are there any fun ways that your platform allows marketers to you probably know where the person's home is because they end up spending a lot of time at that location, right? So that could be their work, it could be their home, right? So are people using that information in interesting and powerful ways?
Yeah, we are seeing that in our platform. So through a technology partnership, we can associate a device, let's say that went to Whole Foods. I'm just making up these names, right? A device showed up at Whole Foods. Through a technology partnership, we can see all the devices that device lives with at home, right? And we enable advertisers to target the device that visited Whole Foods, but we also enable advertisers to target all the devices in the same household. So if you are speaking to your spouse or your roommate and you're going to go shopping this weekend, you might be served an ad for Whole Foods when you're inclined to go to Trader Joe's, but be like, oh, you know what? Whole Foods has a special on salmon or whatever. We got to go get our fish over at Whole Foods. So on your way home, stop and get some salmon. So it's a really interesting way to sort of hit all the decision makers or all the influencers inside of a household. And of course, grocery stores are a simple example. But if you're buying furniture or you're looking to, redo a room or something really sizable in terms of, expense, that's not a singular decision. Typically, that's a couple people coming together in a household to make that decision. So it's a great way to make sure your message is getting in front of all the people.
Cool. If the person ends up also connecting to that home's Wi-Fi, can you then at least temporarily impute that IP address belongs to that mobile device through your technology partnerships?
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. We do not work with IP addresses. It's all GPS. It's all location signals from opted-in mobile devices. So if the device is on the move and ends up in one of our points of interest on the point of interest database we've mapped, that's where we get that signal. Right.
Now, I was just curious, since you were able to identify the family members, could you also then identify essentially their home Wi-Fi?
I got you.
DSP-based programmatic against that household for non-Wi-Fi and non-mobile devices, right? Sort of bridging into programmatic.
I got you. Well, it's a good question, and a lot of our customers actually will take the mobile ad IDs and bring them to a DSP partner, bring them to Media Math or Trade Desk or whatever the case might be, and run programmatic and make a media buy that way.
I see. Okay, yep. Cool. Good to know.
Yep.
The people don't often think about mobile as a way to target B2B, but B2B is actually a pretty sizable chunk of media buying. Are there any sort of fun ways that people have used your platform from a B2B perspective? Maybe back in the day when people would go to a trade show, for example, or are there other ways to sort of know that like a person might be in a B2B audience?
We do see a lot of our customers asking. We see a lot of prospects come to us and ask us about B2B, like, hey, can I target the employees of this building, people who show up every day, and we do have a frequency metric, so we could isolate if it was a unique use case and say, these devices are showing up at this building every single business day of the year. Therefore, we can infer that they are employees of that location, whatever the case might be. Because who goes shopping at the same store every day of the year? No one, right? And then we also do see a lot of people who are asking about, hey, I sell services to marketers, or I sell services to dentists, or who knows, whatever they are. I want everybody who's been to the convention or the trade show, at the New York Hilton on July 8th, 2020, or well, not 2020, I guess, but whatever the year might be. And we can give people that very granular, day specific data. And what's also really interesting is that we deal with polygons. So you can actually draw a custom polygon inside of a map in the product in Visit Local. And then the devices that showed up inside of that polygon will backfill. And within 24 hours, you'll have all the devices that showed up inside of that, that polygon.
Cool. I would imagine at a certain point that becomes too small to be worth it, but there's sort of like a tipping point where all of a sudden there's enough people in that audience that
That's right.
it's sort of worth going after. Is there sort of a sweet spot where all of a sudden it's worth the effort?
It really depends on the advertiser's media spend. So our audiences only go as small as 100 people, which is tiny, right? No one wants to advertise to 100 people, really. But generally, there's probably, in the thousands, that's critical mass. That's a meaningful audience to go advertise to, given conversion rates and given return on ad spend. So there is no magic threshold. Every advertiser is different, but we do keep our audiences above a certain minimum, so that frankly, you can't isolate an individual that way and treat them any differently than you would treat a large volume of audience.
Right. For retailers, looking to sort of drive store traffic for retail locations, are there any sort of best practices from a messaging perspective? Obviously, you guys are really more in the data and access business, but maybe you hear through the grapevine of what the success stories were and can sort of relay that on to marketers to say sort of it's either promotional messaging or couponing or whatever that really got the people motivated.
Yep, totally. In fact, and I'm sure you can imagine being in this ad tech sort of MarTech industry, a lot of advertisers do want to know best practices. Like what works? I'm willing to experiment. I'm willing to try new stuff. So we do try to publish first party research or primary research, and then also republish secondarily studies that are reputable from the IAB or MMA or whoever about how to do things well. And seeing around, best practices to get shoppers back into stores is, well, first of all, there's a backdrop. Consumer loyalty or brand loyalty is kind of dead at this point. People aren't necessarily sticking with the brands they've always used because they're not available anymore, or the store's closed, or I don't go there anymore because the pandemic changed my habits, right? Anything could happen. So it's a climate to go win market share through generally a customer experience, right? People say they want a better price, but people will actually spend more money for a better experience, right? So they say one thing, they vote with their feet, or they vote with their wallet. So what we see most often is a better in-store experience for the customer, a better experience around returns. Free shipping is a huge value. That's what people want in terms of convenience. Can I drive up to your store and can I open my trunk and have you put it in the back of my car? That's highly valued, of course, especially in the pandemic. So we are seeing, generally speaking, advertisers who have better customer experience winning over people who are just talking about, lower prices or higher quality chicken or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, you got me thinking down another little rabbit hole, which is the idea that sometimes there could be a situation where a brand wants to drive traffic either within a retailer or to a retailer. When you think about how big store placement is and product placement within stores and shelf space and that kind of thing, and especially if you can do polygons, are brands like because P&G might want to drive me into the ShopRite to get some Tide, which is in ShopRite's best interest, I might be in the parking lot because there's a Panera there, right? But are there situations where not just the retailer themselves, but potentially the brands available within the retailer are engaging in this stuff? Because I could be in a Best Buy parking lot and maybe not in market for a flat screen TV, but is it Best Buy that tries to get me in, or is it Samsung that tries to get me in, or do they use co-op dollars and work together to get me in, right? Are people doing stuff like that? Is it that
Totally.
level of sophistication?
Yes, it is all of the above. There's all kinds of affiliate marketing. There's all kinds of co-marketing partnerships. And I think what you're doing is you're drawing a good distinction between the retailer who owns the real estate, or who makes use of the real estate and sells everyone's products, and the brand who is on the shelf in the store, who doesn't own anything other than shelf space, or have claim on that shelf space. And there is a lot of that back and forth. What we see is, generally speaking, the retailer is spending the money on getting people to their own brick and mortar stores, right? So it's I'm going to make it up again, Walgreens or Chick-fil-A or Pizza Hut, whatever the case might be. They're the folks who are really interested in buying the media to get people to come back to drive up same store sales.
Great. Well, that sounds really powerful. Any other tips for marketers looking to use location as sort of a great filter, right, to layer on to existing marketing plans?
That's a really good question, and it is just one signal, right? Location is, while powerful and clearly shows intent. There are any number of signals that you could ingest and use to be relevant to your audience. I guess the one tip I would offer, it's not so much a tip as it is an insight. We did a survey last month in April, and we saw that upwards of 60% of marketers are moving budget from I want to drive online sales to I want to drive in-store sales. So a lot of that money, it's a stable pie, right? But a lot of that money is moving from digital, sell me something through e-commerce, to get my people back into stores, because that's really where 80% of all commerce, still happens in brick and mortar stores. So there is a huge appetite to get those shoppers like you and me back into, I don't know, Kohl's, wherever we go.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was all really great. Thanks, Dan, for joining me for brainstorming on sort of the hyper-local and all the fun things we can do with it. I look forward to watching the platform evolve, and hopefully a bunch of other folks got a lot out of it.
Thanks, Kevin. It was a pleasure to be with you.